One of the most respected names in Bitcoin just made a new price prediction. After the brutal dip that we experienced, this price prediction will shock you. The person making it is not just any analyst, he's a real Bitcoin insider and one of the first people that Satoshi Nakamoto ever contacted. Some even believe that he is Satoshi. And now he says that Bitcoin is heading to $1 million per Bitcoin. And this isn't just some hype, it's backed by data, inflows and institutional moves that you have probably not seen yet. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly why this prediction makes sense and why I agree that this could be a likely scenario. Now, let's dive in. Bitcoin Insider leaked his $1 million price prediction. I want to introduce you to this guy. This is Adam Back. And Adam Back made a few interesting predictions. His longer term prediction is that Bitcoin will go to a $200 trillion market cap. Just to give you some perspective, right now Bitcoin is at a $2 trillion market cap, meaning that Bitcoin's value and the total value of Bitcoin as an asset could 100x over the long term as hyper-Bitcoinization takes place. So meaning that the world, the globe, everyone around the world, all individuals, all institutions, all governments allocate a certain portion of their wealth into Bitcoin. That's hyper-Bitcoinization. And of course, there's a lot of macroeconomic factors that are contributing to this. For example, hedging against inflation, because trillions are being printed out of thin air. And people, institutions, companies, governments want a way to protect themselves against inflation. And Bitcoin offers that protection. That's what it's made for. Now, this is Adam Back's long-term prediction. Now, let's talk about his shorter-term prediction this year, 2025. Because Adam Back is saying that Bitcoin's price could reach $500K to $1 million by year end. Some say that's a bold forecast. But in this video, we're going to dissect why he's making this forecast and why it might actually make a lot of sense. And of course, how you can position yourself to take advantage of it. But who is this guy actually, Adam Back, and why does the whole crypto community listen to him when he talks? Well, it has to do with the following. Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder of Bitcoin, who we don't actually know who he is, how weird that may sound, but yeah, Bitcoin is actually founded by an anonymous person. We still don't know his identity. Some think it might have been a group of people. But in any case, Satoshi Nakamoto from Satoshi@anonymousspeech.com sent an email to Adam Back, adam@cypherspace.org. And Satoshi said, I'm getting ready to release a paper that references your Hashcash paper. And I wanted to make sure that I have the citation right. So, all right, Satoshi Nakamoto wants to reference to Adam Back's work, because Adam Back actually created a technology called Hashcash, of which Bitcoin took a lot of principles. So Adam Back basically laid the groundwork for Bitcoin to emerge. You've probably heard of the saying, standing on the shoulder of giants. Bitcoin was actually standing on the shoulder of Hashcash, which was also a decentralized payment network or a digital currency. And here another email of Satoshi to Adam Back, and he's saying, hey, thanks here for the pointers you gave me. So Adam Back helped him to improve his paper, and Satoshi informed him that Adam Back just released his white paper of Bitcoin. All right, so Adam Back is one of the first few people that knows about Bitcoin, or that knew about Bitcoin, and actually had an influence on the technology of Bitcoin and its inception. And that's why I'm saying Adam Back isn't just another analyst, all right? All of X, YouTube, social media is full with all of these analysts that are making price predictions, and some might have a hidden agenda. But Adam Back is actually someone that invented a core technology that helped to give rise to Bitcoin. So he helped to invent Hashcash, which was one of the first cited technologies in the Bitcoin white paper. So when Adam Back speaks, the Bitcoin community listens. And now it's also time for you to listen. And together we're going to figure out why this may or may not make sense. Hey, and if you enjoy watching videos like this one where I help you to make sense of everything that's going on, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And let's continue. So there's even wilder theories out there. So some theory even states that Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto himself. All right, Adam Back, isn't it suspicious that Adam Back created the technology Hashcash, which had many of the principles that are basically the principles that Bitcoin is founded upon, but the project never really got a lot of momentum. Isn't it a viable option that Adam Back, under a different name, under a different branding and a few slight changes, relaunched Hashcash with all the learnings that he had and created this email thread himself? It might have been him just emailing from different VPNs and different email addresses to himself in order to create this alibi, this paper trail that he could say like, hey guys, I am not Satoshi, but I was one of the first ones to be in touch with Satoshi, which puts him at in a very interesting position, right? So why would he want to do that anonymous instead of just releasing Bitcoin under his own name? Well, if you see something as big and powerful as Bitcoin right now, a decentralized financial system that basically has the power to undermine banks, governments, and gives back the full control, full financial control to individuals, companies. So that is something so powerful. And if the founder of such a technology is known, then the CIA, FBI, governments around the world could try to exert influence in order to shut it down or to alter the technology. Just like what they have recently done with Telegram. They arrested the founder, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋. Mark Zuckerberg also not that long ago came out with statements saying that the governments around the world pressured him to take certain actions. And that's why it might have been a smarter move to relaunch something, such a big concept as this, under an anonymous name. All right, anyways, let's continue. So right now, Adam Back is running this company called Blockstream, and Blockstream is a global leader in Bitcoin and technology infrastructure. So basically, they're building upon the Bitcoin infrastructure. And as you can see, they have raised quite a lot of money. So $210 million from different investors. So that means they're quite a big player within the Bitcoin and crypto ecosystem. So yeah, Adam Back is someone with a big reputation and track record within this community. Now, what is his Bitcoin thesis this cycle? So here, part of his thesis is that Bitcoin ETFs are gobbling up quite a lot of Bitcoin. So they have bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. For example, BlackRock's 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗶𝗺 Bitcoin ETF now owns around 600,000 Bitcoin. That is a very significant chunk of the total Bitcoin supply. And there aren't any signs of stopping. BlackRock keeps on buying more and more Bitcoin every single day. And BlackRock is not the only one that's buying. There's also other large asset managers out there which have ETFs which are also buying up Bitcoin. Now, why would people want to buy a Bitcoin spot ETF instead of buying Bitcoin outright? Well, the Bitcoin spot ETF gives you the option to gain exposure to Bitcoin through the stock market, because basically you're buying into a fund and the fund owns Bitcoin. So the underlying asset of the fund is Bitcoin. And for a lot of traditional investors, that is a very easy way to get exposure. For example, a lot of hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds, banks, institutional investors, they like to invest in this way. Also, by investing in a Bitcoin spot ETF, they don't have to think about the custody of their Bitcoin, so the private keys and storing their ledgers and taking all of these backup measures in order to avoid that their accounts or their Bitcoin will ever be compromised. So that's why there's a lot of demand for these Bitcoin ETFs in the traditional financial market. At the same time, the ETFs are buying more Bitcoin than the miners are producing. So every single day, the miners are producing new Bitcoin because they're processing all of these blocks of transactions. But the volume of new supply hitting the market because of miners and the amount of Bitcoin that the ETFs are buying up is much more. The ETFs are buying much more than is currently being released by the miners. So that tells me that demand is much bigger than supply. And generally in economics 101, when demand is much higher than supply, prices tend to go up. And we see all of these new entities coming out that are now holding Bitcoin. So here you see exchanges and custodians. We see DeFi and smart contracts, ETFs and other funds, governments that are owning Bitcoin, private companies, public companies. Together they hold around 3.25 Bitcoin. So, and this is only of the private companies that we know of. There's also a lot of private companies that don't disclose their holdings online, because some companies right now see it as some kind of marketing stunt. They announce to the world like, hey, we are buying Bitcoin, and their stock price just pumps because the market gets excited. They're like, all right, these guys are going to go hard on Bitcoin. And then the market gives them a higher valuation. So some companies are not that public about it. They prefer to not disclose their holdings to the public. But this is just what we know. So out of the 189 entities that have disclosed their Bitcoin holdings, they own around 3.25 million Bitcoin, and this number only keeps on increasing. So here we have the breakdown. MicroStrategy owns 553,000 Bitcoin, BlackRock 600,000 Bitcoin, Grayscale 191,000 Bitcoin, Fidelity 200,000 Bitcoin, Marathon Holdings almost 50,000 Bitcoin. There we go. Block 164,000 Bitcoin. Tether 100,000 Bitcoin. China, United States, they have quite a significant Bitcoin reserve. Wrapped BTC. What is Wrapped BTC? Wrapped BTC is when you deposit Bitcoin in a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain, and then you can basically use a Bitcoin representation on the Ethereum blockchain, which you might want to use in certain decentralized applications. That might sound complicated for some of you. To give you an easy example, let's say that you want to buy some kind of new altcoin. These altcoins need to have a trading pair. So bear coin, and you want to trade it against wrapped Bitcoin. So that gives you an option to trade against Bitcoin on the Ethereum blockchain. And then there's untracked Bitcoin supply. So remaining Bitcoins in circulation, 15 million Bitcoin. Some say that there's around 1.5 million Bitcoin estimated to be lost because people lost their passwords or had crazy ex-girlfriends which destroyed their computers. And there's around a little bit more than 1 million Bitcoin that hasn't been mined yet. So institutional adoption is picking up. And Adam Back believes we're just getting started. Right now, Bitcoin is at a $2 trillion market cap. Gold is at a $20 trillion market cap. So to go from 2 trillion to 20 is about a 10x. Okay, but Adam Back believes that in the next few decades, Bitcoin will actually grow to $200 trillion per Bitcoin. So that's a 100x from here. Why? Because there's a lot of money out there. There's literally an abundance of money in the world. A lot of sovereign wealth funds are sitting on trillions or billions and are looking for ways to get a great return. So here you see the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund is sitting on $800 billion of assets. Indonesia, 600 billion. Qatar, 526 billion. Hong Kong, 514 billion. Norway, 1.7 trillion. China, 1.3 trillion. Another Chinese, 1.1 trillion. UAE, 1.1 trillion. Kuwait, 1 trillion. Saudi Arabia, 9.25 billion. So yeah, all of that, this is just a few, all right? These are the world's largest wealth funds, but there's also smaller ones, which are also sitting on billions of dollars of assets, and those need to be invested in to get a return. Otherwise, if they don't get invested, then yeah, they will basically lose value due to inflation. So here's an interesting tweet. Canary Capital says this week's market review: fast and slow money. Family offices, sovereign wealth funds, and pension funds are buying the Bitcoin ETFs. The Bitcoin price continues to show a strong potential for bearish momentum. Legacy markets remain in a strong risk-on posture with indices at all-time highs. Adam Beck sees Bitcoin reaching between $500K to $1 million this cycle. Why? Because the massive demand that is in the market right now, what I mentioned before, all of these sovereign wealth funds, all of these banks, all of these nations, they keep on acquiring more and more and more Bitcoin. Some call this the modern arms race. Back in the Cold War, people were battling who would be the first one in space or in the moon, or who would have the strongest nuclear weapon the first. But in this case, we are doing a battle who can accumulate as much Bitcoin right now, while Bitcoin is still affordable, while it's still cheap. Because I believe that Bitcoin at one point, because there's so much demand and so little supply, will become an asset class that only the elite can afford. But right now it's still affordable. Even though we're close to 100K, it's still dirt cheap if you understand the direction that we're going. So Adam Beck envisions Bitcoin reaching a $200 trillion market cap, and he sees corporations adding Bitcoin to reserves as paving the way for hyper-Bitcoinization. And he predicts $500K to $1 million per Bitcoin. So that's the point that we've been driving home in this video. And you already see that companies like MicroStrategy are buying up loads of Bitcoin. MetaPlanet, a Japanese company, buying up loads of Bitcoin. And they now also open up a US-based entity to raise money in the US and buy up more Bitcoin. Recently, Jack Mallers also came out with a Bitcoin cartel called 21, and they are basically building a Bitcoin acquisition vehicle backed by Cantor Fitzgerald, by Tether, and yeah, a bunch of other big players in the industry. So at this point, I believe we are at an inflection point where so much money is going to flow into Bitcoin that a lot of you will be very surprised how high the price of Bitcoin can actually go when all of this is playing out. And you might wonder, if all of these entities are buying up so much Bitcoin, why isn't the price of Bitcoin already at 200K, 300K, 500K, 700K? Well, a lot of these guys are buying through what we call OTC desks, over-the-counter desks. That basically means that they buy directly from Bitcoin miners or people that own large quantities of Bitcoin, and they don't do this on exchanges, because they know if these entities just buy a few $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on an exchange, then they drive up their own acquisition price. So instead, they make an over-the-counter deal, meaning, hey, I'm willing to buy Bitcoin. I have a $3 billion budget. You have Bitcoin. I send you the money. You send me Bitcoin. We don't need to do it through the exchange, so the price doesn't get affected. And that's how the big guys are buying behind the scenes. But there's only a limited amount of Bitcoin that is still left in these OTC desks. And when these OTC desks are depleted, there's no other way for these large entities to buy Bitcoin other than on the open market, on the exchanges. And when that happens, we are going to see an explosive run up. All right, we've been talking for a while now. If you found this video useful, make sure to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. And that being said, thanks for watching. Peace out, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.